This is Sudden Impact.
In a night that was promised to be unforgettable, TNA Wrestling certainly delivered. Join me as I review that historic night. Hello everyone, I'm John, and welcome to another episode of Sudden Impact. And without further ado, let's get started. So to start off, TNA Wrestling throughout the night were consistently mentioning that they had the biggest crowd in North American history for the company. This was only beaten out by the earlier UK tours during the Hogan and Bischoff era. So this crowd at Slammiversary was a staggering 7,623, which goes to show that TNA is well and truly getting back to their glory days. This was also helped by several NXT wrestlers competing in matches, the return of AJ Styles, and an otherwise stacked card. And with plenty of big announcements scheduled for later this year, TNA is growing from strength to strength. Now, for the matches. So normally the countdown, pre-shows, whatever you call them, aren't widely considered as being as monumental, but TNA went all out for this one, starting with the Knockouts Tag Team World Championship match between the champions, the Elegance brand, Ash and Heather by Elegance, taking on the challengers, the Inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay. As expected, this match had distractions and interference throughout the majority of the match's runtime, with both the personal concierge and M by Elegance getting involved on behalf of the Elegance brand. Now, the Inspiration weren't able to counter this and lost the match. However, later on in the show, they confronted the Elegance brand and said that they would be bringing back up on this Thursday's live episode of Impact. Now, I didn't expect the Elegance brand to win this match, but I suppose they had the numbers as well, which were simply just too much for Cassie and Jessie to handle. I was also surprised that this match was on the Countdown show, because it was given so much hype and so much build-up going into the event. And even Cassie was posting about it on her social media accounts. And yeah, it was a little bit surprising that they advertised it for being on the Countdown show. Now, the second match of the Countdown to Slammiversary was a surprise match between Eric Young, who came out with the rest of the Northern Armory, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams, and first ran down the crowd and called out the hometown man, who came out and got the pinfall on Young. This further annoyed Young, and backstage he said to Icarus and Williams that changes were going to be made. So, well, this match surprised me in that it first actually happened, and it was over before it almost started. Just getting settling down into it, and then next thing you knew, it was over. But I'm glad that all of them got a chance to actually appear on the event in some way, shape, or form. However, I'm not a fan of the commentators actually revealing or potentially revealing the hometown man's identity. Or like they were saying, he's actually Cody Deaner. Well, it's called kayfabe for a reason. If wrestlers like El Generico don't have their identity revealed, then why should the hometown man's be revealed? Okay, so moving on to the final match on the Countdown show, which was an interpromotional match between the team of Real One, Endo Amore, Zilla Fatu, and Josh Bishop of Fourth Rope, who faced the unlikely team of the international champion, Steve Macklin, Jake Something, and Matt Swarner, who was accompanied by Steph DeLanda. Now, Real One and the rest of the Fourth rope crew had an entertaining entrance with plenty of crowd participation. The fourth rope team beat Macklin, Something, and Warner, who just couldn't coexist long enough or got in each other's way. And you could see that their cohesiveness wasn't there, mainly because of the fact that they were just thrown together at the last minute to be a team. However, this was a fun match, in my opinion, and a great way to introduce Zilla Fatu to a bigger stage, as well as find out what Enzo, or Real One, is up to now. The opening match of the main Slammiversary card was Order 4's leader, Mustafa Ali, who was accompanied by the rest of his Order 4 group, who challenged Cedric Alexander. Now, this was a classic opening match with fast-paced action, high-flying spots, and several distractions and interference spots from Order 4. Now, the commentary team were saying that this rivalry had been building for years, with the two of these wrestlers having headlined their division, which was being like the old cruiserweight division back in WWE, when WWE went through that brief time where they actually brought back the cruiserweight division and gave them their own show, and actually having them headline their division or their show, having a match at WrestleMania. In the end, of course, Cedric Alexander wasn't able to overcome all of these distractions and interference from Order 4, and ended up losing this match, so that the ledger would be squared at one apiece. Now, only time will tell if we see Mustafa Ali move on from Cedric Alexander, or if we will get a deciding match at a later date. Now, next up was the System teaming up with Matt Cardona in a most unlikely alliance to fend off NXT stable Dark State, who had been attacking both Cardona and the System in the lead up to this event. Now, Dark State showed their dominance and teamwork throughout the whole match, whereas the System and Cardona struggled initially. However, they seemed to be getting onto the same page after Matt Cardona's former tag team partner and current System member, Brian Myers, tagged him in, and which led to the victory in the end. Now, this match was more about, can these wrestlers keep the rampaging NXT faction at bay? Also, more importantly, can the System and Cardona work together to do so? So I think we can safely say that they can, because they won the match in the end. Now, the heated personal rivalry between Indy Hartwell and Tessa Blanchard was the next match, and it certainly delivered. Devastating moves from both, as well as interference from Victoria Crawford, formerly Alicia Fox, on Blanchard's behalf. Now, the video hype package before the match showed the history of Hartwell and Blanchard, with Blanchard opening her home to Hartwell when she first came to the US to wrestle. Now, what the issue was that when Hartwell debuted, this took away from Blanchard's big moment, having defeated Jordan Grace most recently, and this got under the skin of Tessa Blanchard. But that was the video hype package for this match. Now, Indy Hartwell got the victory after several brutal moves. After the victory, when she was being interviewed by the reporter Gia Miller about her plans going forward, both were attacked by Blanchard. Now, this led to TNA's Director of Authority, Santina Marella, first ejecting Blanchard from the arena, and then later on in the evening suspending her indefinitely. The next match, which was a good lead-in, was the winner-takes-all match for the TNA Knockouts and NXT Championships. Knockouts champion Marsha Slamovich and JC Jane from Fatal Influence from NXT were the two champions going into this match. Now, this match started out pretty much as a standard match, but very quickly devolved into a 3-on-1 beatdown by Fatal Influence on Slamovich. However, the odds were evened out eventually by Lei Ying Li and Zaya Brookside coming out and helping Slamovich by seeing off Fallon Henley and Jasmine Nix of Fatal Influence. Now, this would prove to be too little too late, though, as it wouldn't take long for JC Jane to just capitalize on the injured and tiredness of Slamovich. Now, this win by JC Jane makes her the first in history to hold both a TNA and WWE championship at the same time. And hopefully not for too long, though. Next was the X Division championship match between Moose and Leon Slater. Now, this match was fantastic with everything that the X Division has been come to deliver and be expected of, and becoming this like the reason for it being the signature division of TNA as well. Now, this match was a massive one for both wrestlers, because if Moose successfully defended the championship, he would continue his journey to become the longest reigning champion in company history. However, if Slater won the match, he would become the youngest X Division champion in history. Now, after all of these high-flying spots and fast-paced action, Slater would get the victory. And while he was celebrating, AJ Styles' music hit, and the crowd went absolutely wild. Even Slater went absolutely wild in the ring. He was so excited to see that AJ Styles had returned to TNA Wrestling, just to come out and congratulate and celebrate with him. That pop or cheer from the fans, it was the loudest I've ever heard in TNA. Now, this next match was pure chaos, as it was the tag team four-way ladder match for the tag team championships, with the Hardys, the Rascals, the team of Zachary Wentz and Myron Reed, who was replacing the injured Trey Miguel, and First Class challenging the champions, the Nemeths, Nick and Ryan Nemeth. And at one point, First Class actually tried to retrieve the championships by having Casey Navarro stand on AJ Francis's shoulders. And then also, later on in the match, Francis did the world's largest moonsault off a ladder onto the rest of the competitors, unfortunately breaking one of the few remaining ladders that were in this match. It was not an issue because Jeff Hardy's innovation and creativity in going to the ring technician and pressing a button on his remote dropped a rope ladder from the ceiling of UBS Arena. Now, this would eventually lead to Jeff Hardy winning the match and preventing their retirement, because that was what they were saying that they were going to do if they lost this match. And then all of a sudden, whilst they were celebrating, Team 3D's music hit, and Bully Ray came out to congratulate them on winning and issue a challenge for the tag team championships at Bound for Glory, which the Hardys accepted. Of course, Bully Ray would be teaming up with his kayfabe brother, Devon, at this event, which was then revealed to be taking place on October 12th at the Songus Center in Lowell, Massachusetts. Now, with TNA crowds consistently building and building throughout this year, I think they could get at least 8,000 to 9,000 fans to attend this match. And given that the Songus Arena only has a maximum capacity of just over 10,000 for wrestling events, I think that 8,000 to 9,000 would be very good, considering how much the renewed interest from TNA that it's been getting recently. Now, the main event was for the TNA World Championship, but before the wrestlers came out, Frankie Kazarian interrupted and announced that he would be doing commentary at ringside. Now, Joe Hendry made his entrance to a rapturous ovation from the crowd, and then New York's own Mike Santana came out to another massive fan ovation. And finally, TNA World Champion NXT's Trick Williams had a choir sing his entrance while he came down to the ring. Now, Hendry and Santana were determined to bring the belt back into TNA hands and did their best to ensure that this would be the case by getting rid of Williams early on in the match for as long as possible. However, this pin, the resulting pin, was broken up by an interfering Kazarian who pulled the ref out of the ring before they could count the three. This led to Kazarian being thrown out. However, this gave Trick Williams enough time to recover and get back into this match. But as soon as he got back into the match, he was sent out again because Hendry and Santana once again teamed up and made sure that it would just be a one-on-one match between two TNA wrestlers. And after a standing ovation from Hendry, which was kicked out surprisingly by Santana, and also two devastating STBs from Santana, who looked like he would win the match after delivering these two devastating moves. But Trick Williams suddenly appeared and threw him out of the ring and got the pin on Hendry to win and retain the TNA World Championship and end the pay-per-view right there. Now, this show was one of the more entertaining ones that TNA has put on for a long while. But it could have done without so much interference. Like I'm talking about, most of the matches that happened this evening had some form of distraction or interference as part of them. Now, I didn't like that, and I also didn't like the fact that the NXT versus TNA championship matches were both won by NXT wrestlers. At least one should have been won by a TNA wrestler, because it would just give the opportunity to actually have more TNA wrestlers come and actually bring it back home where it belongs. Regardless, I had a lot of fun watching this match. I hope you did too. So that's all for this episode. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Leave your comments down below and ring the bell for notifications on new videos. Also, catch this episode wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, I'm John, and this has been Sudden Impact.